Like, I'll think about it. I'm sure you guys are going to have stuff to say about that too. But, uh, you know, so, box checked, medicating a child that doesn't have a disorder, isolation, not getting my letters, acting stupid when I ask them why he's been hit or hurt, not being able to resolve the problem when he's been hit or hurt, and then telling CPS and they don't care that he's been hit or hurt, nor do they care that he was being medicated with what he was being medicated with. And luckily, like I said, Utah CPS, actually, they were like way cooler in helping me with all this. Like, I wrote all these plethora of people, and like everybody was just like a dead end after a dead end. Like I think every day I try to write a new person. I even wrote like Michael Moore, and trying to like just bust the story open, and like, because I know they're under a lot of heat. I just watched like some sort of like court proceeding where they're trying to safeguard, the kids a little more. But I don't like those things because they just act like, oh, well, we can have more check-ins and more this and that, and then they don't really actually fix it. And really, like, honest to God, like, I liked what Paris was talking about, how they said, like a boarding school should be a boarding school. Like, and it's just school. And a therapy school or like a therapy program should be like a therapy program. And I really do feel like there should be limits on it, on the length. Like, no matter what the kid, even if it's the bad kid that's like tearing stuff up, like, honestly, I feel like there should be like, some sort of rights that they have. Like, if someone would have put me in one of those schools, it would have been definitely justified with what I was doing when I was that age. But like, would I have deserved that? No, man. Like, I was sad, I was hurt, so I just think about stuff like I was pulling really bad stuff. But like, I mean, look at me. Like, I went to college. Like, I moved out when I was 16. I put myself through high school, graduated, went to college. So I wasn't like a bad kid. I was just lost, and would I have deserved to be like, you're bad, you're bad? No, like, I just needed someone to be real with me. And that's what got me to like go to college and stuff. Like, people actually like empathizing with me and like being like, hey man, like, you're worth something and you're a good person. And I was like, I am. They're like, yeah, you should go to college and help people for like what you've been through. You've told me a lot of crazy stuff. And I'm like, I can. And that was all I needed, just a little push, a little encouragement. And it like really changed my whole life around, just having a couple, like, honestly, it was like a couple school counselors and my math teacher, Miss Crease, from Culver Park High School. And it was just like, really? I'm worth something? Okay. Which is really random because I don't think she remembered me when I like gave her flowers. Because, they have a lot of students. I was like, how do you like changed my whole life? Yeah, it's just really sick. And now, since I've been a problem for them, they have like pretty much convinced my sister I've been a problem for them. And I'm thinking it's because, when I found out he was being medicated, sorry, it's really dark and there's like weird angles. When I found out my nephew was being medicated, I called Utah and I said, man, why are they medicating him? He is like perfectly healthy kid, man. He's never had these like disorders up until like AKA now. And the Utah guy that like the governor sent me, he said, look, I'm going to go ahead and like forward this to the licensing department. And when I do that, they have to investigate why he's been put on this medication. And, they're not going to like that. So hopefully, like, that'll help. And I'm like, thank you. That guy is awesome. And, but it does suck, though, because even, with Utah, and then, like, this lady from here, like, they're called, like, I forgot what it's called. It's like constituents resolution people or whatever. And they kind of like investigate investigations, like they go over, like they're still within CPS, but they're like, let me see what's going on here. So like this guy, he's still part of the clan, CPS clan. And it sucks. I wanted to be a CPS worker up until like, well, I didn't want to take my work home, but like up until all this crap. Like now I just like almost hate every single CPS worker, and I'm sorry to say that, but it's the thing that makes me the most mad is like they're just like, do the process, like there's no way around it. And I'm like, well, how can I get a lawyer? And that was another thing. That's why I drive to Utah. because I, like, tried to, like, do all these online forms or call these law firms. And, like, I could not find a lawyer for my nephew. And then I even went, when I actually went down to Utah, I tried to get, like, a emergency custody form to, like, meet with the judge. And I was like, can I write the judge? Can I talk to the judge? Can I meet the judge who sent him here? I want to talk with him. Nope, 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 we don't do that. They don't take letters. They don't, And I'm like, okay, well, how do I do emergency custody? How do I file a complaint? How do I do anything? Like, this is a courthouse. I should be able to do something. Here's a number of these places you can call that'll help you, guide you. I called every single one of those numbers. They're like, we don't do that. We don't fight CPS. I said, so if I just get emergency custody, I'm fighting CPS, or how does this work? Because, like, they're not doing a good job. Well, you don't fight CPS. That's not possible. You're fighting the state. I say there's got to be a way around it. There's people that fight the state all the time. People fight cops. People fight judges. Like, there's a person that goes above that person. There's a loophole. So I go to a lawyer and they're like, this is Idaho. There's no loophole. There's no loophole. And I'm like, there's not. There's not, because there's gotta be some badass lawyer out there that is, like, willing to, like, fight for my nephew's right. He's been assaulted, he's been unlawfully drugged, and he's been imprisoned. And he didn't do anything wrong. And he says he doesn't want to be there. He said he wants to go home, and nobody's listening to him. Nobody's listening to him, and nobody sees, like, how distressed he looks. Like, his whole body is just like, like, just every time I talk to him, like, you can just see it. When you know a child, like, when you know a kid, that's why moms know when their kids have been, like, you know, molested or, you know, something. Some of the moms will know, like, instantly, or when their kid loses their virginity or something, they're like, what's different about you? Like, my nephew looks so distressed in his eyes, in his, like, his body. Like, he just does not look okay. And I know they've been doing stuff to him. Like, not like molesting him. Hopefully not, you know. But I know that they've been abusing him. I can tell. And, you know, after a month of him being in there, I said, so is there anything good, you know, that you want? And he was like, is the food good? He's like, no. And then he's like, well, it could use some salt. I was like, oh, we use a lot of salt. But then he just kept looking over the lady like, I'm going to get in trouble. Like, everything he said, even if he said the food didn't taste very good or he didn't care for the food. It's like, he can't even say, like, oh, I don't really like the food, without, like, looking over at that lady like, I'm going to get in trouble. And I was like, oh, we use a lot of salt in our family. Yeah, I probably need to chill out with that. You're probably just not used to that. You know, just trying to be nice. And now they convinced my sister, you know, even though I don't, like, you know, like I told you, I'm really careful that, you know, maybe my contact with my nephew is not good for his therapy. And so now I can only write letters. So after, you know, just really fighting for this kid, and I'm still fighting for him. And it, like, really breaks my heart, because this is, and, you know, now my sister's saying that she's gonna write a letter. It sounds to me like what you guys were talking about, some of the survivors saying how it's like a cash cow thing, you know, because now the state's paying for it, and at first she thought she was liable for all this stuff, and now she's like, okay, he's getting this really expensive therapy. And all I know is when I saw my nephew, like, in person, it was, you know, he had a black and blue knuckle. Like, his fist was all black and blue. And I said, what happened to your hand? And he goes, oh, I punched a... First he went to say wall, but then he corrected himself with locker, like locker. And I'm like, a wall or a locker? And he's like, looked over at the lady, a locker. And I'm like, do you even have lockers? And, like, this is my whole thing. If my nephew's been in there and they're teaching him these, like, you know, manners, and they're they're teaching him how to get along with children, and they're supposed to be helping him, and he's supposed to be doing so much better. Why in a month, in a whole entire month of you guys doing your, supposed skills, or your tactics and your therapy, is my nephew declining? So in a month he's declining because now he's punching stuff, which he's never done that before. And he looks like toe up. Oh, and they cut his hair. Oh, a lot of you guys talked about that. I kept asking him to get a haircut. He said he wanted to grow it out, and I was like begging him to get a haircut because I hated his haircut. Or, the way his hair was like all shaggy. And he was like, no, I like my hair. And I'm like, come on, man, I'll get you the good haircut. I'll get you the good haircut, And, I think I can put this here. I told him I'd pay for him to get a really cool one, to like try to get him to get a haircut. I was like, we'll go to the one barber that does it, designs. And the next time I saw him, he had a haircut. And I said, oh, you finally cut your hair, man, yeah. And he was like, I was like, do you like it? Like, are you happy about it? And he was like, so they cut his hair, Like, just stupid stuff like that, like the stuff you guys were talking about them cutting your hair because it's not the code. Like, I understand maybe if your hair was, like, super dyed, to be like, alright. Like, I remember one girl's, one of the girls I really liked her, she had a pretty long one, and I watched it all the way through. And man, this girl, I wish I remember her name from the video. I should have looked it up before I made this one. But, she said she had a punk, like, hair, and, like, maybe some, like, streaks and stuff in it. And they, like, shaved her head. And I'm thinking, like, okay, like, if the hairdo doesn't follow your school code or whatever, like, alright, get a box dye and dye it, like, their natural color. Like, why would you go as far as to shave their head? Like, that's just mean and humiliating. Like, you can't just get, like, a box dye that's, like, maybe a natural one, so it's allowed or whatever. Or, like, something to take the dye out of their hair. You're gonna just shave their head off and that's that. Like, you couldn't have thought of anything more humane and a little more kind to follow your school rules. You just go ahead and, like, crap on the kids and cut their... And a lot of that stuff means a lot to the kids, their hairdo. That's their identity. They're not robots. They're individuals, and they're learning who they are, and that's part of their identity. Why can't they be good? They got Christians, Christian, when I was young, I went to, like, this Christian group or whatever, and, like, all those kids were, like, really good kids, and they had, like, dyed hair and piercings and stuff. Like, that was all accepted at the thing. But then I went to different churches when I was a little bit younger, and same thing, like, can't wear nail polish, can't wear makeup, and I'm like, why? What does it matter if all of them are, like, being good Christians and following the AKA rule book and the rules, it's like that means something to them. And my nephew, I begged him for, like, a long time to cut his hair, and he just really wanted to keep that hair. And you just, like, crapped on all his progress and all that hard work he did, telling me no. All the times I asked him and bribed him. I even tried to offer to pay him. I was like, I'll pay you $10, you cut your hair. He was like, no. And I was like, and I'll pay for the haircut. What's the problem? I want to grow my hair out long. And I'm like, okay. So, what they're doing is wrong, man. Like, and, for a kid that's already gone through a lot, and now they cut one of his family members out, like, so they got my sister just totally convinced, and the girl was talking about how they'll extend the time and try to convince the parents that they need to be in there longer. Well, they're doing that now, and my sister's now saying, oh, well, maybe he should stay in until August. Well, it's really messed up because his birthday's in August, and the whole summer is going to go by, and this is his only chance to be 12, and he should be, like, canoeing, or, we should be out swimming and camping and, like, hiking and having fun in the summer. He should have his dog back and playing in the grass, and you know, 4th of July, like fireworks is, coming up. And it's like, nah, he needs to stay in there till August. So like, is he gonna, and then when is it gonna stop? Oh no, now it's August, now it's this time, now it's this time. So then in the meantime, they sent me this home study, and I've been trying to talk to my sister, but she's not trying to hear me because she's angry with me, she's like, thinking I'm undermining her and stuff like that. But really, I'm not trying to do a me against her thing, and I'm sure I'll probably get comments for that. It's just hey man, I promised Logan something. I promised I wouldn't stop helping him get out of there. And I'm sorry that you think I'm undermining you, but I made a promise to your son. And I don't make promises that I don't keep. And you know, and I know what I know what I see. And if everybody else wants to say it's a nice school and it's, like, I'm not dumb. And I'm not saying my sister is, but I just think that they're really taking advantage of her vulnerable place right now. Because my sister can see through stuff too, usually. And she's very smart. My sister's very smart. We came from the hood. Like, we know when people are blowing smoke up our bum. And so I feel like they're really, like, capturing my sister in this vulnerable moment. And I just feel like, and then, they've, like, turned us against each other. They were like, you know, telling her stuff that, telling me stuff I probably shouldn't have known. Like, I probably shouldn't have known technically he was on the Respitol. That's like HIPAA law. And then, they told me. And then I called her up freaking out. They're drugging your kid. Like, why is he on that? And then, that kind of, like, invaded her privacy as a parent to say, like, she wanted him on that. She signed it. And I didn't know that. I thought they were just drugging him. And I still don't agree with it. I still feel like they're drugging him. And I think that they're taking advantage of my sister's vulnerable point right now. And, but they shouldn't have told me about the medication because it made us fight. And, and then, like, telling me, oh, she's paying for that. Little does she know. Keep going the home study. So, like, they'll act like they're your friend. And then that the other parent is making, bad decisions. But then they've called my sister up and said, when I very first called, and I didn't do anything. I just questioned him about some of the stuff I had learned. Very lightly, by the way. And then my sister said, what did you say to the school? Because they acted like they were annoyed. And then CPS says, well, the school seems, upset with some of the things that you've said. I said, what have I said? I know they're in the room. I don't say anything to make them mad on purpose. Because I know that they can try to cut me out. And I'm the only thing that's listening to Logan and what he wants and what he needs and his heart. Like, it's only me. Because the social workers don't care. And they want to keep him in there. Because, she tries to tell me, oh, it's so nice, it's so nice. And I'm like, no. What about all the reviews? It's such a great school. I said, okay, look at the Google reviews. Oh, that's just been happening since Paris Hilton. Okay, you guys got to stop blaming Paris Hilton, okay? Because at the end of the day, like, all you guys social workers say, oh, it's just media, it's this and that. That's the same thing they said about the girls with R. Kelly, okay? Oh, they're all lying. They're all lying. Nobody wants to lie about something like that. And maybe even if there was one liar in the group, they're not all lying. Not all of them. And they had too much facts and too much proofs. So it's like, you can sit there and say, oh, it's just media. It's just spam and this is that. Okay, well, there's an article in 2019. There's whistleblower staff. You can go on Indeed and look at people that left that say that they left because they didn't agree with the way the kids, and these are all current. So, and I told the lady, I said, like, the CPS worker that was trying to convince me, I said, with all due respect, I know CPS is overwhelmed, and my nephew wasn't being an angel, and that was making your job really difficult, and I know you guys have a lot of kids, and a lot of times you guys are overwhelmed. So, you can tell me all day long that school is, the best, and, like, Dr. Pepper or whatever, but I also know that school does you guys a good justice by taking those problematic kids that you can't, that are being problems for you, off your hands, and then you don't got to deal with them because now it's the school rules. Because that's the thing. Like, when I say, hey, CPS, you're not allowed to do this. Like, he has rights. Like, this is your rules. They go, well, you got to refer to the school. And then I'll call the school. Hey, he's supposed to have these rights. Oh, well, it's our rules. So is it your rules for the school, or is it CPS's rules? And that's how he gets trapped into this little cycle of not getting any of his rights heard. His rights heard or whatever. And then, when I told them staff put hands, I called Idaho right away. And then when I talked to the supervisor, they say, oh, I hope they're not doing that. And I said, what do you mean you hope they're not doing that? Why didn't you investigate? Oh, you were supposed to call Utah. So I flat out called Utah. And they go, when was it? And I'm like, 4 days ago. Oh, well, because, it was 4 days ago. And did he tell you he had marks? Did he show you any marks on the Zoom? Did he da-da-da-da? Because it was 4 days ago, we can't open an investigation. We got to open an investigation the day it happened. Okay, what does that mean? So my nephew just gets to get put hands on by staff, and then it's just, oops, we didn't follow the rules on how to report it. And then later, I find out, like, through watching some of these things, or, like, talking to people, that I was supposed to call the police. And then I'm like, oh yeah, let me call the police. And then they're not going to let me talk to my nephew. And then boom, they brainwashed my sister and was like, she's not, she's not good for his success. Why? Because I was questioning what you guys were doing to my nephew and making sure he was safe. Very politely, very lightly. I know I talk how I talk here, but I don't talk like that on those Zoom meetings. I'll go, hey buddy, and oh man, that doesn't sound good. Like, I don't think they're supposed to do that. I'm not sure about that. My nephew said, I'm on meds now, is that weird? And I go, well, in my household, if you were here with me, I think that that's something that you should get on when you're a little bit older, like from what I think, but I'm not a doctor. And really I want to say, spit it out. You're not sick. But I can't say that. And it sucks because me not being able to say that, knowing that they have him in their possession, is like, holy crap, like, these guys got so much control. And if I just say the wrong thing, then my nephew's just like stuck. And no one's like helping him, no one's hearing him. And now, that's how they felt because, I got them investigated every time. Every time I got off the phone with them, I'd play really, really nice. Oh, yeah. And then as soon as I got off the phone, I was like, boom. Department of Homeland Security. Da-da-da-da. This is my complaint. Department of Licensing. This is my complaint. Staff put hands on a child. Da-da-da-da. This is my complaint. My nephew said he got punched by another kid. He's been assaulted. Da-da-da-da. This is my complaint. They're revoking phone calls from our sessions. They're not giving him his letters. They're, isolating him. Oh, that was another thing. When I found out he got put in the isolation tank or whatever, or box or whatever they put you guys in, they said, oh, that's allowed in Utah. That's allowed. Unfortunately, we can't do anything about that. And I said, I thought caregivers are not supposed to, entrap like that. Because I know, like, if you're taking care of a vulnerable adult and you're in their home, someone with a developmental disability, but you're, like, in their home, like, even if they, like, swatted at you or hit you, you can't tell them, like, oh, you have to go in your room and you can't come out until this time. I forgot what it's called, but it's like, it's a form of, imprisonment in a way, and you're not allowed to do that to them because it's their home. So they could even, like, assault you or swat you, and you can't tell them, hey, you can go in your room, because that's like a punishment. And so I'm like, if you can't do that to a vulnerable adult, why are you allowed to do that to a child? Like, and I'm not saying, like, kids don't, need discipline if they're being bad and stuff like that, but, if they're putting my nephew in a isolated room for like hours at a time, like that's not okay with me. That's like he didn't do anything to be in there. He wasn't an out of control teen. He wasn't, he swore or whatever, and he wasn't getting along with the kids. He didn't hurt anybody or punch anybody. He didn't get in a little boxing fight in like any of his group homes. He was just being mouthy, and it just doesn't. Like I'm always like the type that like punishment should fit the crime. Like, okay, if he went to each one of those foster homes and he was boxing out children and like, oh yeah, let's duke it out, bro. And he was like talking like really bad or just being really foul. Like, okay, like yeah, that make I'd be like, okay, maybe I'd probably even maybe wonder if I was being overboard. Like, okay, maybe he does deserve to be put in a little isolation box or something, like, because he needs to chill out. But not when he was in a emotional distress and got his dog taken away from him, watched his mom, whatever, all this stuff, and then he's in a brand new town. He ain't even from there, and then now all these people have control and power. And I think the thing that was upsetting him the most is like all these people were making these decisions for him and swapping him from home to home, because the last place he was at was like a temporary place. And he was really upset because he was like, man, I just wanted my own room. Like he just actually just he was upset he was in a group home because he wanted, until his mom got better, because I was out of state, to stay in Utah and be with like a mom and dad, or like a dad or a mom, like a parent, and not a lot of kids, because he was a single child his whole life. And so for him, being in that like big group of kids all the time, I think really exhausted him, and it was just like a lot for him, especially when he was probably depressed. And my nephew too, like when he gets in trouble and stuff, he used to put himself in timeout because he would want his alone time. He'd be like, I'm going. I'd be like, hey man, you're messing up. You gotta, get your stuff together and stop, doing this or that. Like if he had done something, or, being naughty, when he was young. And he would go, well, I'm gonna go in my room and think about what I've done. Like he would put, I'm gonna go in my room to think about what I've done, and nobody talk to me, so I can think about what I've done. Like he would put himself in timeout. So, and I would just be like, what? You're gonna put yourself in timeout? I didn't even tell you to go timeout. I just told you to chill out. But when he's going through stuff, he just kind of likes to be alone a little bit. He likes to just kind of go in the room and think about life. Like he's actually a very deep emotional kid. Like he explains emotions and feelings a lot like more than kids his age. I feel like half the time when he talks to me about like the way he articulates emotions, like he does it on like a very deep level. And so I just feel like when he's going through stuff like that, he just kind of like needs that space and that time. And I just felt like, okay, that sounds really normal, like to be really stressed out, and then just like I'll have all these people like telling you and playing video games, being loud or whatever, and like he's just stressed out. Like he's like, man, like I'm in this group home, I just kind of want to go home. And then another thing too is I got him a cell phone and they kept like not letting me use it, and taking it away. And like he was like, man, like that's how I talk to my family, or that's how I talk to he had a little girlfriend from school, but they were like little online dating. So he was all in that little lovey-dovey. I know he's not supposed to date that young, but you know he like talked to her all the time. And you know how that is when you're in young love or whatever, you're all obsessed and stuff. And so, you know, I'd tell him, hey man, are you sure you should be focused on your school, man? And he'd be like, Auntie, I said, what? And he's like, guess what? And I'm like, huh? And he's like, I told my girlfriend that I love her. He said it real serious, that I love her. And I said, you did? And he goes, yeah. And I said, why? Or, do you really feel that way? Or are you? And then I made a joke, said, you ready for all that? That's a big commitment. You gotta be nice to her. You better treat her right. If you're gonna be saying the L-bomb. That's not a joking word. That's a commitment. And he goes, I do. I will. I'm gonna be the best, nicest boyfriend ever. And then he'd like make her little stuff, like, And then, so he took his girlfriend away, little kid girlfriend, that he, it was just online. It's not like they were hanging out in person, but, and you did all that stuff, and yeah, that's frustrating for anybody, man. Like, and then he got punished for it, and I'm just telling all you guys, like, it's so crazy when I saw this girl that did the documentary. She was, like, around my age or something, and she's brunette, and, in one of her videos, it's about an hour long, and she was talking about, I felt so happy when I seen this girl's documentary, not happy, but, about Provo Canyon School, because everything that she had said in this, like, documentary was what my nephew was reverbing, almost like verbatim of hers. And she had also referenced the Stanford experiment. And if you watch this and you know who I'm talking, like if you're you and you're seeing this, I wrote you in your comments box, like, thank you, because everybody was really, like, trying to make me feel crazy. And then, like, when I saw that, like, 90% of the stuff that she said, like, I even made, like, a TikTok, right? I made this TikTok, and I said, the only way I can know... Oh, and my nephew had said, his little friend, I said, do you want me to tell JJ something? Like, the one he likes to play with over at my house. And he said, yeah, tell him when I get out of prison, I want to play. A kid is saying, when I get out of prison, I want to play. And we both kind of chuckled, and he was like, and I was like, hey, man, don't say that, okay? And I'm, like, looking at him like, hey, don't say that, okay? And he's like, I was like, don't, okay? And he's like, okay. And I'm like, alright, don't say that. And he's like, okay. And I'm like, don't, because I know he's going to get in trouble. And, like, no kid should be in there and be calling, saying when I get out of prison. And that's when I made the TikTok, and I said the only way I know how to explain what my nephew's going through is, like, the Stanford experiment, because I also was familiar with that with going to school. And, my nephew's starting to talk like a prisoner, and starting to act like a prisoner, and feels like a prisoner. Well, when I get out of this jail, I'm trapped, I've got to do my time, and why is he doing his time when he was a victim in this whole situation? He has done nothing. He's the victim, man. Like, he is the victim. Like, he should be, like, not in trouble at all. He didn't make any of this mess. Matter of fact, when my sister's having a hard time, he was trying to help her and be the hero. He was like, I'm helping my mom. I'm going to get us out of this situation. And he was trying to be her hero. And then in return, he gets called bad. And my sister's all brainwashed. And, he needs a structure. If he doesn't get this structure, he could be, a bad person when he grows up. He could be all messed up. And I said, what he needs is love. Like,